In these problems, we're being asked to estimate a standard deviation for a set of data. And the data is grouped. You can see it here in this histogram. What we have is information about these ranges of, well, lifetimes of light bulbs in this case. So the light bulbs that lasted between 700 and 750 hours, there were 6 of those. We don't know the individual times that those light bulbs burnt out. We just have this grouped data. So when we do our standard deviation, it's going to be an estimate. And that's okay. We'll get a good number anyway. You'll probably recall that to compute a standard deviation for a sample, you're going to take the individual values and subtract the mean and then square that result and then divide everything by the sample size minus 1 and then finally take the square root. We're going to do something similar, except we don't have individual values. So we want to find an estimated mean for this group of data, and then we want to compute an estimated sample standard deviation. Because we don't have the individual values here, we're just going to choose the midpoints of each of these ranges. So we'll call this 725, and this 775, and this 825, and this 875. So those are our midpoints. And then what we'll do to get the mean is we'll multiply the number in each range by the midpoint and then divide by the total sample size. So that's our estimated mean. There are a lot of places where you can make a simple error. So I think the best way to do this is to set up a spreadsheet. So let's move to the computer. Okay, so here we are in the computer, and what I've got here is a simple spreadsheet, and all I've done is really just make spots to enter in our data, our midpoints, and the sample size, and the frequencies of each of those ranges. So our midpoints were 725, 775, 825, and 875. And then the frequencies for each of those ranges were 6, 6, 12, and 4. And our total sample size is 28. It should equal the sum of this. Let's just check. So I'm typing the formula for the sum here. I'm going to select these. Yep, 28. Very good. Okay, so now let's start with the mean, the estimated mean. So that estimated mean, we'll put the formula in this box. What we need to do is take the midpoint times its frequency and then divide by the sample size. So I'm going to start with an equal sign and a set of parentheses, and we'll do this cell times this cell plus this cell times this cell plus this cell times this cell plus this cell times this cell, and then we'll end our parentheses, and then we're going to divide the whole thing by this cell. The reason I'm not just typing in these numbers into the formula is because maybe I can use this spreadsheet again by just replacing what's in the yellow boxes, as long as it's a problem that has 4 ranges like this again. So we've got our estimated mean. It's 800. So let's start calculating the estimated standard deviation. And let's do this in steps. The first step here is we're going to subtract the mean from each of these values and then square those values. So let's do that. We'll call this subtract mean and square. And we'll put each of those in here. So the first one is going to be this guy minus the mean. And then we should put this in parentheses. And we can put this to the second power. I think this will work. And then let's go ahead and do that for the next ones as well. All right, so we've got our set of values where we've subtracted the mean and then squared them. Now we want to multiply each of these by the frequency and then divide by the sample size minus 1. So let's multiply each of these by the frequencies. So multiplied by frequencies. So that would be This one equals this times this. I think we can just paste along here. We're going to add all those together and divide by the sample size minus 1. So we'll call this inside the square, inside the radical. So that is all of these added together. So this plus this plus this plus this, and then divided by, and we'll do another set of parentheses here, our sample size minus 1. All right, so we've got 2,500 there. And then we're going to take the square root. So our sample, and that's going to give us the answer. So sample standard deviation is, I think square root is, yeah, square root of this. And boom, we've got 50 as our answer. I think I'm going to highlight that in a color so we know that's the right answer. All right, so those are all our calculations, and we've got our answer is 50 for this, the estimated standard deviation. And we can use this format again, come back and just fill in the yellow spots. All right, so we've been to the spreadsheet and worked it out, and our standard deviation, our estimated standard deviation for this group set of data turned out to be 50. So that's a little bit of work with estimating standard deviations of group data.